everyone, welcome back to my channel and to my February reading wrap up. So in February I read 21 books and 4 DNFs, so 25 read in total. I read a total of 8,150 pages and I have an average rating of 3.48, which was better than January, so I'll take it. I have a bunch of books to speak to you today about, some more thoughts than others, so I'm just going to jump straight into it because I'm sure this is going to be a very long one. The first book that I read in February was A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Now this was a while after the first book, which I read a very long time ago, last year sometime. And so I was a bit nervous that I'd forget everything before going back into this one, but luckily I did not. In typical Jennifer L. Armentrout fashion, we had way too much babble. It's just kind of her writing style, so I do try and overlook it when I know it's going to happen in a book because that's the author's style. What more can I do? But I feel like the plot of this book was just so good. It was very, very different to the first one, The Plum, Blood and Ash. It was like a totally different world, a totally different book. I feel like we had so many twists and turns that I just wasn't expecting. My mouth was just like open the entire time. I also feel like we saw such a development from Poppy and Castile's relationship that it was just, yeah, it just changed the game and changed the book, and I actually liked them together, which I didn't really in the first book. I kind of did, but my thoughts were all over the place in the first book. Even though I enjoyed it, this was such an improvement on that book, and I cannot wait to reread it actually already. I think that it is way too big, way too chunky. This doesn't even look big because it's the Fairy Loot edition, but like the words are so small. I had to listen to this on audio. It's like 30 hours long or something else ridiculous like that, which is insane, but it was worth it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually read it during a 24-hour readathon, so I will link that somewhere around if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts about this one. But so good. If you didn't love The Blood from Blood and Ash, even though I did, I feel like you'd still like this, even if you didn't like that one, because they're completely different vibes, completely different world, completely different story. Really, this one's much more, I want to say like pirate, like it's nitty gritty fantasy versus the first one that was very la 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 fantasy. I don't know how to describe that, so I hope that makes sense. But yeah, this one was such a good book and I'm so glad I read it. And I did go straight into the next one, which is The Crown of Gilded Bones. Because of the very dramatic cliffhanger at the end of The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, I knew I had to pick this straight up because I was literally flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it, so I picked it straight up. This one was a 4, which is still a fabulous rating, but it was not as good as A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, which was amazing. This one was just a bit more repetitive. Yet again, a lot of it should have been edited out. I feel like we had the same conversations that we had in the last book again. I feel like a lot of the characters could have just been not involved because I didn't really like them. I didn't really care for them. They weren't developed enough. But I really enjoyed seeing what happened with Poppy's storyline in this one. The power and the person she becomes is incredible, and I love the way she is in this form instead of being herself in the first book. I feel like she is designed to be this person. It's very hard to say without giving spoilers. I liked Castile's role in this. Again, if you've read it, you might understand what I mean, but I cannot say what I loved most about this because of the fact it would be spoilers, so I'm gonna have to be pretty vague, I'm sorry. I just really enjoyed seeing a new side to the characters. I felt like it just created something new in the world that currently I was feeling it was very repetitive, so it was nice to see a new side. Only issue is I thought this was the last book. I thought this was a trilogy, and so when I got to the end and read yet another cliffhanger, I was like, what? Who am I? What is going on? I am so annoyed that I found out this was 6 books. So I've got to wait for another 3. I'm so annoyed. I can't even tell you. Like, it kind of ruined it for me. I was like, I'm angry. I should have known, but I don't know why I thought this was a trilogy. I guess because all the book boxes came out when it was finished. So I just kind of assumed, well, that'll teach me to assume makes an ass out of you and me. So I won't be doing that again. But yeah, really, really good series. I feel like the first one a lot of people give up on because it's slower, whereas even though these are slow, they become much better and I would recommend them. Next, I decided to continue on with the Nashville Neighbours series. So I read The Pool Boy by Nikki Sloan. I really enjoyed this. Again, I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was the best one in the series so far. Well, I've read the 3 now, and I think this is the best one in the series. I just really enjoyed that we got to see a divorced woman get what she deserved in a good way. She got what she wanted, she got what she deserved, she got her happy ending. It was all so good. Because I feel like with divorced, we never see divorced women in stories and romances. And so to see one and to see hope, I feel like is such a nice feeling, because divorce is such a common thing and yet we never see it in books really. So I was really excited to see the storyline behind this one. I absolutely loved the 2 characters together. I thought they had so much chemistry. They were so fun. They were a fresh couple. Considering there was an age gap, they felt both young and mature at the same time. I feel like he brought out the young side to her and she brought out the mature side to him. The only thing that I didn't love about this book is he is a musician and she is a music director, someone who scopes out musicians, you know, one of those people. And it talked a lot about the music aspects and her being like a manager and the problems with that. So it was just a whole lot about the music industry, which is something I have zero interest in, so it kind of dragged during those moments and I was kind of like, let's get on with it then. Otherwise, I genuinely think this could have been a 5 stars if it wasn't for those boring moments. It was so good. I cannot wait to read this again and just get all that serotonin. Piggybacking off of the success of that book, I decided to start the 3rd book, and I think the final book in that series, which was The Architect, again by Nikki Sloan. The whole point of this series is we follow characters who live around each other, so you do hear of the other characters in these books, which is what kind of gives it that homely feeling to me. I really like this neighbourhood, which seems to be full of problems. I still really enjoy it. This one, however, was my least favourite in the series. Not because it was bad, but because it didn't cater to my preferences as a romance reader, very adult romance reader. I just didn't care for the material inside of it. I will say I still enjoyed it to some degree because of the fact that it was involved in this series and getting to see other characters, even in the background. I still enjoyed it, and I really liked our protagonist. She was fabulous. I loved that she was so involved with veterinary and animals. I loved the way that the couple met. I loved the way that a fellow friend joins the situation. It is a throuple. So I really enjoyed the way he came into it and his storyline as well, because that was very unique and fascinating. They're also full-length novels. They're like 400 pages each, and yet they feel so short because you just speed through them. So if you're someone who likes reading short romance novels and you realise this seems a bit long, so you're like, no, it's not. It feels really quick. It's just fully fleshed out. It's really great. 100% recommend. Recently, I have uncovered this love for mythology, as long as it is a feminist retelling, and so I picked up Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, and I can say it did not disappoint. It has rerouted my love for feminist retellings. This is just incredible. I gave this 5 stars. I adored it. If you like Circe, you will probably like this because it is almost the exact same story. I'm not going to lie to you. They are so similar in so many ways that I felt like I was rereading that story. And as someone who gave Circe 5 stars, this was it. It has helped me knowing that I didn't like Song of Achilles. I think it is because that is based around men. Whereas this is something I want to read from a woman's perspective. The whole thing of mythology is very men-based and women just seem to be a back character. So I really like seeing authors bringing forward women voices into these stories. So absolutely phenomenal book. I always struggle to see before I read a book how it's going to be feminist, because I'm like, the men are vile, and they are. The men in this are vile. The whole point is it doesn't change the story. The men are always going to be horrible to the women. That's how the story goes. But the point is, even in those moments, you see how the women are empowered and how they are still in control, no matter how the men are treating them and how the story ends or how the story goes. The women have themselves and they can still empower themselves no matter how it goes. And that is more uplifting than a story where the women win, in my opinion. To see how women can continuously lose and yet still have hope in themselves is just so powerful. Like, I teared up so many times reading this. I decided to do a little bit of tabbing on just my favourite moments, or mostly quotes, and I found some of my most favourite quotes in this book. It is beautiful. The writing is beautiful. It still has plenty of plot. I really enjoyed both our protagonist perspectives. We see two sisters, one being Ariadne. We see her sister as well in a very different situation, and yet still the exact same thing. Very enjoyable. The end fits. I mean, the end is the end, you know, that's kind of how it goes. But I was shocked by the ending. I liked the ending. I think it was very fitting, very good. I just can't praise this book enough, honestly. I feel like I'm just repeating myself. But yeah, if you have any recommendations for me on feminist mythology, I would love to hear them. I'm currently on the scope for The Silence of Girls, and I've got a couple in my wish list that I've got that are like similar vibes. But if you have any more recommendations, I would love to hear them down below. Thank you so much in advance. Okay, next I picked up House of Sky and Breath. This is a reread for me, my 4th reread, I think. So, I mean, it's nothing new. I know the story like the back of my hand. Again, a 5-star, absolutely amazing. I will never not love this book. I think that the world building is just insane. I think the plot is great. I think that it moves well. The first 200 pages is very info dumpy. I will agree. You're not wrong when you say that, it is. But I feel like the remaining 600 pages outweigh that 200 pages. And it's not even 200 pages. It's like from page 80 to 200. So 120 pages of a bit of a sludge to get through. But when you think the rest of it is worth it, in my opinion. Absolutely worth it. The characters are amazing. Bryce feels like my best friend. Yeah, I have no words. The only thing I'll say is every time I read it, I feel like I get more from it. I feel like I uncover something new that I've missed the last time or the time before. I feel like I always change my opinions on the story and on the characters, which is so good because it means I'm getting something out of this reread. And I definitely felt this way with this book yet again. I feel like the setting is just so good. But I do have a dedicated review that I made for this when I first read it, so I will link it somewhere up above. It was quite a while ago, I think 2020. But I would thoroughly recommend going to watch that video if you want to hear my thoughts in more depth. But the reason I read that was for the release of House of Sky and Breath, and so next I read this. Look, okay, I'm going to say something controversial. It hurts me more than it hurts you, I assure you. I still enjoyed this book, that is no lie. I still gave it 4 stars. But I'm nervous about this. I'm so nervous. I did not love this book. 4 stars is being generous. I think, honestly, more of like a 3.5, but we're going to round it up to a 4. The characters are what make this book for me. It is why I still like this book because, you know, I loved them in the first book. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more of this world. But what I will not understand is why in the world this was the mystery that was chosen. Why? On what planet was SJM when she wrote this? Like, everybody's loved it, so obviously I'm on my own. This is not the gospel truth, this is my opinion. Obviously, I'm the minority, so ignore me. But I just do not get it. Why did we introduce random characters that had nothing to do with the place and then squeeze them in like a little lemon wedge? Like, oh, let's try and make this fit. When you could have just picked one of the characters we had from the first book, which had an extensive amount of characters, and focus a mystery on them, or use them to create a new mystery. Why did we start this book with someone I had no idea, like, who they were? That's something I've noticed in books I don't like, is sequels starting with characters I don't know, because it has happened with Lair of Dreams, and I gave Lair of Dreams 1 star, I really disliked it, and it happened with Heir of Fire, which is the one book in Throne of Glass series that I hate. So I think I'm noticing a trend. I hate sequels that start with people we don't know. So maybe it just started wrong. You know, maybe for me personally, it just was instantly destined to fail, which it didn't. I still gave it a 4. I still loved it. I just worry where SJM is going with this because I did not like what happened here. And when you love a book so much, any amount of disappointment counts. The ending is crazy. The ending is insane. I'm sure you've heard everybody talking about it. What in the world is going on? I don't know how I feel about it. I don't have negative thoughts. I don't really have positive thoughts either. I'm just excited to see where it goes. But I'm a little bit worried that it's going to lead to a cash grab. I'm worried that that's what this was. So I'm not the first person to say that. I've heard a lot of people say that, so you know, we'll see. Maybe not, maybe it's not, maybe it's for a real reason, but we will see. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, I really, really loved it, but I cannot see myself rereading this 4 times like I did with Crescent City. I can't see me being upset and going, yeah, you know what, I need to put the audiobook on like I do with that book. This will be one that I will have to read to get to another book. It's certainly no Akamath, I'll give you that one. Maybe I'll feel different on a reread when I know what's going to happen, so I won't be disappointed. But yeah, broke my heart not to give this a 5-star, I will admit. Broke my heart. But I'm glad I read it. It still was good. I know I'm being very negative. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you're an SJM stan, so am I, okay? Please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. All you can see is SJM, okay? I was not coming to be negative, please. Moving on from that swiftly before someone shouts at me, I then read 2 novellas, but I'm going to talk about them as one, Dipped in Holly and Claimed by Cupid. These are by Dana Isley. I have heard some things about these being stolen from someone else, so I do not know what the drama is with that. I did not know about this before I read them, so I'm not sure if I will continue now that I know this. And I'm not recommending them because of that reason. You should do your own research. They were okay anyway. I think I gave them both 3 stars. And they were like lower 3 stars, not higher. They were a bit boring, and a bit on the nose. They're very short novellas, one based at Christmas, one based at Valentine's, quite obviously. And it's just humour that I don't love. So in Dipped in Holly, the main characters are called Nick and Holly. That humour just isn't for me. Like, I'm sorry, I get it. Well, obviously I get it, but I don't want it. Please don't do that to me. Get it out. Goodbye. I don't need it. But if you are into that on the nose humour, you're gonna like that probably. If it doesn't bother you at all, good for you. Kind of bothered me. But overall, there was no plot, which again, they are 66 pages. I don't expect extensive plot. I've read short novellas, even shorter than that have had amazing plot, amazing character development, everything you could ever want. So I am harsh on my novellas because I think they could do better. I feel like there's just no connection between these characters. I don't feel it. I don't vibe with it. There's also no depth to them whatsoever. You learn nothing about them, and we're 2 books in, so there could be something about them to be told. You know, I feel like you could do something. So I don't think I'll be continuing. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I think it set out with what it wanted to do and it achieved what it wanted to do. So 3 stars for me, it was middle of the road. Next I read Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. I really enjoyed this. What a refreshing read. I rarely like my Fairy Loot reads, so I was picking this up with negative expectations, which I really shouldn't have because that was unfair to this book. It was really, really good. I think for what it was, it blew me away. Like, it was unique in its story. It was fascinating. It was well paced. Like, actually, it was quick, very quick. It fit a lot into this story. It wasn't cringy at all, like I find most YA love triangles, you know, Twilight. I feel like any love triangle just isn't for me when it's in YA, and yet this one I felt, I don't know, it felt nice. It felt well done. It didn't feel too much. I really enjoyed the time travel aspect to it. There was 2 different sets, you know, the modern day and then back in time. I don't want to give anything away. I enjoyed both those settings. I thought they were great. I thought they were done well. They added to the eerie, mysterious feeling of the novel. I think the protagonists in this book are really well fleshed out and also deal with a lot of moral dilemmas that teenagers could really associate with themselves. I feel like Joan as a protagonist was fabulous for that reason, and a lot of teenagers would resonate with her. So if you are a teen, if you have a teen reader in your life, this is something I would recommend giving to them. My sister is definitely going to be on the receiving end of a copy of one of these soon because I feel like they're just really good for a teen reader and also for, you know, older readers because I enjoyed it thoroughly. But for that reason of educating and learning and dealing with moral dilemmas, that is one I would definitely recommend. I also think the ending, considering it's part of a series, I feel like this book was well wrapped up to deal with the events of the book, but also leaving a couple of strings open to the second book's release. So I felt satisfied by the end, but also wanting to continue, which is something a lot of book series don't do very well. So yeah, very pleased about this one. Next, I'm just going to talk about a series altogether. That is Hate, Liar and Fake by Tate James. This is the Madison Kate series. Well, the first 3 books. I'm reading the fourth book this month. What a mouthful. Overall, I'm going to give this a 3 stars. I think I gave the first book a 4, but the other 2 were a 3. And they kind of ruined my enjoyment for the first one, so I'm just going to give them an overall 3. One thing I will say that I really enjoyed about this series was that all the characters are very unique in their personalities, considering there's 3 guys and they're all, you know, big gang members. They have their own personalities and they don't blend in with one another, which I really appreciated, and I really liked them as characters. I really rooted for them. I wanted them to succeed. I like the protagonist at times, sometimes I don't. And so that is a good thing about this story, is I felt, you know, connected with the characters. However, as the series started to go on, it became very repetitive, very boring. And truly, I feel we exhausted all we can from these characters and this story. I feel like we were done by book 1. Maybe 2 books at a push. But certainly not 4, because the 3 that have happened so far, we're done with them. We don't want any more. It's getting to the point where I'm beginning to dislike them, but the issue is the cliffhangers at the end are so dramatic and I really want to know what happens next, so I'm continuing to read them, which is so annoying because I don't want to read books I don't love. But yeah, the cliffhangers are getting me. I hate these cliffhangers, man. So frustrating. So then I got a free trial again of Kindle Unlimited, so I went on a little bit of a rabbit hole with that. And you know when you read one book, so then they recommend you another book similar and then another one similar. I ended up on a streak in one day of smut novellas. So we're going to go through a few of those. Sorry if that's not your thing. They won't be very long. First of all, I read Temp by Jessica Cain. I'm starting to realise that Jessica Cain just isn't an author for me. She's the one that wrote Caught by the Convicts, which I read last month. This was fine all the way through. The characters were fine. The plot was fine. The relationship, guess what? Fine. Then the ending happened. What in the toxic? I'm sorry. I am not here for emotional manipulative abuse. I'm just not here for it. So I could not enjoy the book. I could not feel happy at the end. I was not at all pleased. I do not recommend because the ending was wrong in many ways. I'm not going to say it, obviously, because it's spoiling. You might want to read it, but I don't recommend. I did not enjoy it. And like that ending just ruined everything I read, even though I didn't already love it. It was like a 3-star, and then I was like, no, 2-star, not happening, no more. So yeah, don't recommend. But then obviously I finished it and they were like, read this. And I was like, okay, I'm sat here, I may as well. So I picked up a second Jessica Cain novel, and that was Step Brothers Secret. And this one I liked a bit more. I gave it a 3-star, more like a low 3, but a 3 nonetheless. This is a very problematic book in itself. It has issues. But like, so does a lot of the dark romance I read, so you've kind of got to take it with a pinch of salt at this point. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the smut. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a well fleshed out story for 113 pages. Jessica Cain did get a lot into that novel. And it was fine. I feel like it's just very entertaining. And I didn't expect a lot because I'd disliked both Jessica Cain books I'd read, so really I shouldn't have read it, but it was just easy. So I wasn't expecting a lot, so then I was pleasantly surprised. But the reviews, not great for this book, and everybody's saying how problematic it is, and they're not wrong. So, you know, maybe don't pick it up, but also it exists. So whatever's taking your pick. Next I read, and I don't even know what they're called. My Ex Got Hired and K-Bond Me? Which when I googled it, it was threw into a wall. I don't get it. K-bonded me. Yeah, threw them into a wall. I don't get it. I read the first 2 installments and really disliked both. I gave them 2 stars because nothing happened. I have nothing to tell you about. I have nothing to say because zilch happened. There was no plot. There was no smut. I have no idea what the point of the book was. I ran into installment 2 thinking, okay, well, it was just a quick first one. The story will happen in the second one. No, nothing happened, and I was not continuing. I'm sorry, I was done. I was over it. There was nothing. I don't get it. Like, I literally don't get what the point was. So yeah, moving swiftly on. And next, I'm not going to talk much about this one because you can't read it, but my friend Lauren was really kind to let me read one of her previous drafts of books, and that is The Seasons Winter. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very good. I didn't rate it because it's not published, so what are you going to do with a rating? I just thought it was very enjoyable, had a great time. Thank you, Lauren, for letting me read it. It's this like sci-fi dystopia about this world where everything's kind of gone. There's no seasons anymore, so these kids get injected with the serums of the seasons and they become in control of the seasons. Very reminiscent of The Nature of Witches, kind of, but without them being witches. Thank you, Lauren. I enjoyed it. Next, I read The Dare by Harley LaRue. I've heard about this a lot on TikTok. It's very popular. And I've had it on my Kindle for a long time, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I thought it was fine. I thought it was enjoyable. It's not, again, as I said earlier, not my kind of thing, so I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I think it set out what it was meant to do. It was a lot shorter than I thought it was. For some reason, I thought it was a full-length novel, and it's not. It's 133 pages. Flew through it, thought it was good, gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read was Crave by Tracy Wolff. I wasn't going to pick this up until my friend told me that this was basically Zodiac Academy, and so I picked it up the next day and like devoured it. It was very enjoyable. Wow. It is very much like Zodiac Academy. If you have read Zodiac Academy or you've heard about it through me, because I don't stop talking about it, this is very much similar and I recommend it again. It's very enjoyable. This is YA though, whereas that is new adult. But the same thing kind of happens. It's set at a boarding school filled with paranormal beings of all kinds. But our protagonist doesn't know she's at a paranormal school. She thinks she's at a normal school and people are just kind of weird. So that was a fun twist on the traditional paranormal school. I really enjoyed the atmosphere and getting to read a paranormal book that felt like my teen years, but was up to date and current and basically not problematic like all those books were back then. It was really, really nice. It felt more catered to me as an adult while still being that fun feeling. And I always love that. I search for that. I crave for that. So this was, I crave for that. This was so much fun. I'm so excited to move on to the next one, hopefully ASAP. Next, I picked up Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I never read this as a kid. This was my first read of this, which is shocking to me. I've, as I said, been really loving Greek mythology recently, so I picked this up as part of a buddy read, although I think I'm the only one that ended up reading it. And I enjoyed it. I think the characters, mainly Percy, were really, really well done. He was not cringy like I find most middle grade, which, you know, it's written for kids, it's going to be cringy, but this one wasn't. I kind of enjoyed it. I'm also surprised by the fact it was written in 2006, that it felt very current and modern. I know that we have to make a lot of allowances for book written a long time ago, whereas this one I didn't felt that way. I felt like I was reading a book published maybe even last year, and I was very pleased by it. I think that for a child, this is the perfect introduction to mythology. It gave a lot of short snippets about different gods and goddesses, and that was great. I feel like I would love to give this to a child. However, me personally, having read a lot of the books that I have read, I don't enjoy reading about goddesses as villains when I know the true story. I say true, I mean it's all mythology, but you know, when I know the real story behind it, I don't want to read about women being villainized. So I know this is a middle grade, but I still couldn't enjoy it for that reason. But I gave it a 3 stars overall. I think I enjoyed it for what it was. It was good. I definitely would give it to a child. I think that was great for them. But yeah, I don't think I'll be continuing the series just for my own personal tastes. Next, I picked up Gallant by V.E. Schwab because I was lucky enough to get an ARC, and you will see me reading this in an ARC reading vlog next week, I think. So you can see all my thoughts and feelings there. I thought that this was very, very good. I was pleasantly surprised because I have not loved V.E. Schwab's work before, but this one was definitely more to my tastes. It's basically very atmospheric, gothic, mysterious, all those things like that. Those are the perfect descriptions for it. The imagery is what stands out in this book, as with all the V.E. Schwab books I've read. They tend to be more, you know, about the writing than the plot, which isn't usually my thing, but I so enjoyed it in this. There's both schools, Merrilance and Gallant, and both are described in such a beautiful and yet eerie way, which totally added to the feel of the story, which was supposed to be creepy. I felt like all of my questions were left unanswered until the end, which just added to the suspense. And then when they were all added, it was like, oh my goodness, overwhelming, but in a good way. I also felt like the ending was appropriate for the amount of suspense we had gone through and the amount of creepiness we had felt. I felt like it was an appropriate ending, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this 4 stars. So yeah, very happy with this. I think it was my favourite V.E. Schwab book that I have read so far. So that was a good one. So those are all the books that I completed, but I'm just going to talk through 3 of the DNFs that I made this month. First of all, I DNF'd The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. I was so excited about this, and I knew it was going to be an interesting one because I have not read a thriller this long, and I didn't care to either. I did get to page 125, which is not actually that far in this book when you think of the size of it, but I couldn't put myself through it anymore. Yeah, that's not a lot that I read. But it was so, you know, it just, first of all, there's a woman in here that, because men think that swearing is not very ladylike, she makes it her mission to swear non-stop to not fit into their standards, which fair enough, go sis, do what you want. But every single time we were hearing her thoughts or hearing her speak, it was the F word in every sentence, maybe even 3 times a sentence, and I'm sorry. I don't want to read that anymore. I don't care about swearing, but there's only so many times you put the same word in a sentence and I'm not going to get annoyed by it. Completely took me out of the story. Didn't make any sense. Then there was, I don't even know what was I have no idea what was going on. I just feel like we weren't well set up into the story and I was just very confused. And I'm really upset about it because I wanted to love this story. And part of me wants to go back, but I just know that I did not enjoy the writing, so it's probably not going to be a book for me. It's very atmospheric of Stephen King's writing, which I don't like. So if you're a Stephen King fan, this could be for you. Certainly was not for me though. Next one that I DNF'd and potentially would pick up in the future, but not right now, was The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. Nothing wrong with this book, nothing. I can see why people love it. I thought it was very interesting, very good. Just wasn't for me at the time of reading, and I'm not sure it would be for me anytime soon. I got 150 pages in, which is actually a fair chunk on this book, and I definitely would consider going back to it. But yeah, it just wasn't my brain at the moment. Like, I was obviously not in the mood for an adult fantasy that was so heavy, and I was kind of just getting a bit like confused and not really that interested in the main character or the man. And it started to get to the point where I was like skim reading, and so I thought, you know what, just put it down. So this isn't one that I'm permanently DNFing, it's just one that I'm putting down temporarily, maybe not to pick up again, but it wasn't for the wrong reasons. And the final book that I DNF still has a bookmark in it, and that was Roundbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I got 162 pages into this, and I have a lot to say that is wrong with this book. First of all, 163 pages and nothing's happened. There's these things called spindles, which I cannot tell you what they are. I do not know whether they are a physical object, a species, a cult, a clan, a language, a place. I could not tell you. Because it was never explained. I just know they're extinct or not around anymore. I don't know. I don't know who they are or what they are. It was never explained, even though the whole book is revolving around them. I also got to this stage and we'd had like 6 POVs. Tell me why that's necessary. 6 POVs? No. No. No, no, no. Never, ever going to be okay. I don't care. Very bland, nothing happened, there was no explanation. And then I went on and read a review, and I went on and read a 5-star review. And the 5-star review even said, nothing happens in this book, but it's good setup for the second one. Oh, no, honey. No. I'm not reading this just to read a second one because the setup is good. No. No. So, I will be placing this into the unhaul pile because I cannot do that to myself again. I only bought it for the map anyway, and it sounded okay. Well, lesson learned, will not buy any book for the map again because this was a snooze fest and nothing happens. That was so long, and I feel like I didn't do a very good job of telling you anything because I also did not give a synopsis for any of these books, which was not my intention because I was going to give a synopsis. I'm sorry. I really hope you enjoyed this though. Anyway, I hope that maybe I helped you with your reading for the next month or two. Hope that I either talked you out of a book you were going to read or I talked you into a book that you were not interested in. Let me know down below what your favourite book of the month was. Mine was definitely Ariadne. And yeah, we can chat down below. Thank you so much for watching. I shall see you in the next video. Bye.